Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to change over to 60 frames per second. Okay, so today I'm going to be running a few different tests or shooting some examples that some commenters on my channel had requested for the Godox SL-60W light with the softbox that I featured in a previous video. They wanted to really know what the output of the light was and the look of the light was with the softbox and the grid on it with the double diffusion. Now keep in mind, the double diffusion does cut the light a lot. So you might even be able to get away for your look with single diffusion. But this is dark intentionally. Right now I'm shooting with the Canon 6D Mark II with the Sigma 24mm f1.4. I'm shooting wide open at 1.4. I'm shooting at ISO 100. First example I'm giving you is the Godox SL-60W with a softbox that has 2 diffusers in it and the grid, and it is exactly 3 feet from my eyes over here, about 45 degrees up, you know, okay. So we're at 10% now. I am going to slowly increase the intensity of the light up to 100%, and then later I will do just jump cuts between, you know, every 10% interval so you can see the difference more easily. So now we're at 10%. I'm gonna go up to 20. So now we're at 20%. I'm gonna go up to 30. Now we're at 30%. Going to 40. Now we're at 40%. Now we are at 50%. Now we are at 60%. %, 80%, 90%, and 100%. Now, as I check my exposure at 100%, my shutter speed was 1/50th, and my frame rate is, 24 frames per second. ISO 100, aperture 1.4, wide open. We're at 100%. Light is about 3 feet away. Double diffusers and the grid. And let me check my exposure at 100%. I'm currently, excuse me, underexposed by almost 2 stops at this distance and these settings. So, and I'm not gonna do any correction in post, so I want you to see exactly what it looks like at a camera. So now we're at 10%, so now we're at 20%, now we're at 30%, now we're at 40%, now we are at 50%, now we are at 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%, and 100%. Right now, because I am at 100% intensity, I'm at the maximum fan speed as well, so the maximum amount of noise is being made from this light at this time. And I imagine that as the light heats up, the fan noise might increase. But what I'm gonna do here is set it so that, at least with this mic that I have on it now, I'm gonna be quiet for a little bit just to see if you can pick up the fan noise, okay? So I did 10 seconds. Not sure if you heard the fan noise. We'll see. Okay, so this last test I'm gonna do this at 100% right now, 100% intensity on the light, is I'm gonna do the flicker test. There are some complaints that these lights flicker at higher shutter speeds. I'm not sure if it's a shutter speed or frame rate issue. I am going to leave my frame rate at 24 frames per second. And then I'm going to bump up my shutter speed from 1/50th to 1/125th to 1/250th to 1/500. So before I do that, I am going to switch to auto ISO so that the camera will automatically adjust and compensate for the changes in shutter speed. After that, I'm going to go back and do it at 60 frames per second, and adjust accordingly. So we're switching to auto for now. Okay, so we're at 1/50th shutter speed with a frame rate of 24 frames per second. Okay, so now we're going to move upwards. We are now at 1/125th. Are you noticing any flicker? Okay, I'm going to move up to 1/250th. Now we're at 1/250th at 24 frames per second. You noticing any flicker? Okay, I'm going to go up to 1/500. We're at 1/500th shutter speed at 24 frames per second at 100% intensity on the Godox SL-60W. Noticing any flicker? Okay, so I'm gonna maybe the intensity has something to do with it. I'm gonna reduce the intensity of the light to 50%. Just jump halfway through. And I'm gonna drop this back down to 1/50th of a second shutter speed. Okay, we're at 1/50th. I'm gonna put this down at 50%. So now the Godox SL-60W is set at 50%, double diffusers and grid, 3 feet away. Okay, so we are shooting at 24 frames per second, 1/50th shutter speed, auto ISO, wide open. Okay, so we're gonna go up to 1/125th shutter speed. Are you noticing any flicker? Let's go up to 1/250th. Shutter speed is 1/250th. Any flicker? We're gonna go up to 1/500 shutter speed. Are you noticing any flicker? Okay, not sure. So next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to change over to 60 frames per second, and then we're gonna go to the 1/25th shutter speed at 50% on the light. And we're gonna see if we see any flicker. Okay, so let's go here. I'm gonna actually pause this and start over. Okay, I'm now shooting at 60 frames per second and 1/125th shutter speed with the light at 50% intensity. Are you noticing any flicker? Okay, let's go up to 1/250th. We are now at 60 frames per second, shooting at 1/250th of a shutter speed with the Godox SL-60W with a double diffuser and the grid and at 50% intensity. Are you noticing any flicker? Okay, one more. I'm gonna go up even further. We're now shooting at 60 frames per second at 1/500th shutter speed with the Godox SL-60W double diffuser, grid, and at 50% intensity. Are you noticing any flicker? Now I'm gonna go back and do this one more time at 100% intensity. So just for consistency, let me just turn down my shutter speed. So now we have the Godox SL-60W with a double diffuser and a grid at 100% intensity. We're shooting on the Canon 6D Mark II with the Sigma 24mm f1.4. And we're shooting at 64 frames per second, and the shutter speed is 1/125th. Are you noticing any flicker? I'm now at 1/250th. Are you noticing any flicker? And my camera battery's about to die. I don't have this one plugged in like the rest of them, so I'm gonna rush. Okay, so we're at 1/500th. Are you noticing any flicker? Keep in mind, I have not changed my fan. Some people do those mods to change the fan to a quieter setup. I haven't had an issue with the noise, so I haven't found the need to change out my fan. And I don't know if that's what's causing their problems or if it's just a matter of quality control. So that's my test. You got the results. I'm gonna cut this short because my battery's about to die. So deuces.